The courtroom opens on what appears at first glance to be a routine procedural hearing. Names are stated for the record. Dates are confirmed. A request for adjournment is made. On the surface, this looks like an ordinary pretrial conference, the kind that happens thousands of times a year without consequence. But beneath the procedural language lies a case that immediately demands deeper scrutiny. The defendant, Joshua Smith, is a 30-year-old man with no meaningful criminal history. According to the defense, his record is effectively clean, aside from a possible driving-related matter. He has been incarcerated for 9 days. He has retained counsel. He has stable housing. He has deep roots in the community. His family support is described as exceptionally strong. The defense paints a picture of stability, education, employment, family, and accountability. This is intentional. Bond arguments are not about guilt or innocence. They are about risk. Risk of flight. Risk to the community. Risk of future harm. The defense's strategy is clear: to present the defendant as someone whose life structure discourages further misconduct. The court hears about his upbringing, his graduation from Plymouth High School, his work history across multiple industries, and his willingness to re-enter therapy. These details are not random. They are offered to construct a narrative of control, a life that, while disrupted, has not collapsed. But the prosecution's response reframes the entire case. This is not an ordinary assault allegation. This is not a bar fight, a domestic dispute, or a moment of mutual confrontation. According to the prosecution, the alleged victim is a 14-year-old student. The defendant was not a peer. He was not a stranger. He was a teacher, a figure of authority. That single fact changes everything. Authority creates power imbalance. Power imbalance transforms conduct. The prosecution emphasizes that the incident was captured on video, eliminating ambiguity about what occurred. According to the account, the interaction escalated from a verbal dispute to physical proximity, and then to strangulation, carried out using the sleeve of the defendant's sweatshirt. The courtroom grows heavy at this point, not because of dramatic language, but because of specificity. The description is precise. The age of the victim is emphasized. The intervention of other teachers is noted. The incident did not end because the defendant stopped. It ended because others arrived. Even more concerning, according to the prosecution, are the defendant's own words. He admitted to snapping. He acknowledged knowing it was wrong. This admission is not framed as remorse, but as awareness. Awareness that did not prevent action. This distinction matters. In bond determinations, the judge is not only weighing the past, but predicting the future. Admissions of loss of control raise alarms. When those admissions involve minors and authority figures, the alarms grow louder. The defense attempts to pull the analysis back towards structure and numbers. Sentencing guidelines are introduced. Even under the most severe assumptions, the range remains below incarceration thresholds. Probation is the presumptive outcome. Jail, the defense argues, is not even a likely sentence, but sentencing is not bond. The judge's role at this stage is not to forecast punishment, but to prevent risk. And risk is not measured only in months or guidelines. It is measured in potential harm. The prosecution underscores this point clearly. The seriousness of the act, the vulnerability of the victim, the role of the defendant, and the existence of video evidence combine to form a case where caution outweighs convenience. When the defense argues that there were 14 days between the incident and arrest with no further allegations, the court listens, but it does not shift. Time without reoffense does not erase the initial act, especially not when the environment involved minors. The judge's response is brief, controlled, and final. The motion for bond reduction is denied. There is no raised voice, no rebuke, no elaboration. The denial itself carries the reasoning. When the defense makes a final attempt, suggesting supervision at the mother's home, the judge closes the door completely. His words are decisive. When I'm done, I'm Done. This is not impatience. This is authority asserting boundaries. The hearing ends not with resolution, but with containment. The defendant remains incarcerated. The court chooses restraint over release, protection over presumption. And the central question remains suspended in the air. How does a system respond when someone entrusted with authority loses control? Even once? By the time the judge delivers his decision, the courtroom has already crossed a quiet threshold. This is no longer a debate about background, employment, or family support. It is a decision about boundaries and whether those boundaries were breached in a way that cannot be temporarily overlooked. From the judge's perspective, this bond hearing is not about punishing the defendant in advance. It is about preventing a situation where the court might later have to explain why it took a risk it did not need to take. Judges do not get credit for optimism. They are held accountable for outcomes. The defendant's profile, as presented by the defense, is strong on paper. A clean record, deep family roots, a stable upbringing, parents with respected careers, a history of employment, even proactive steps toward therapy. These are the kinds of factors that often weigh in favor of release, but this case contains a factor that overwhelms all others. The nature of authority. The alleged incident did not occur between equals. It occurred in a school setting, involving a teacher and a student. The victim was 14 years old, an age where the law presumes vulnerability, not resilience. When the judge hears this, the legal lens narrows sharply. The standard for risk is no longer ordinary. It is elevated. The prosecution's emphasis on video evidence removes uncertainty. This is not a case built on conflicting accounts or unclear timelines. The court is told that the physical act, strangulation, is visible, recorded, and corroborated by intervention from other adults. In judicial reasoning, video evidence carries a unique weight. It replaces speculation with observation. Equally significant is the defendant's own admission. Saying, "I snapped," is not merely a statement of stress. It is an acknowledgement of loss of control. In cases involving authority figures and minors, loss of control is the very risk the court must prevent from recurring. This is where the defense's guideline argument, though technically correct, loses force. Sentencing guidelines describe what may happen at the end of a case. Bond decisions address what could happen tomorrow. The judge is not persuaded by the possibility of probation when faced with the immediacy of potential harm. The 14-day gap between incident and arrest is noted, but it does not neutralize concern. The judge understands that absence of reoffense does not equal absence of risk, especially when the defendant's access to the alleged environment may change upon release. When the judge denies the motion for bond reduction, the decision is not explained at length. This is intentional. In judicial practice, brevity often signals certainty. The court does not feel the need to justify restraint when the facts themselves justify caution. The defense's final request, suggesting supervision at the mother's home, is a strategic appeal to compromise. It acknowledges the court's concern while offering a controlled alternative, but the judge declines. His response is firm, final, and unambiguous. "When I'm done, I'm done." This is not dismissal. It is closure. In that moment, the court communicates something critical. Some lines, once crossed, cannot be temporarily managed, only contained. The defendant's background, while mitigating in the long term, does not outweigh the immediate duty to protect minors and preserve institutional trust. The victim, though not present in voice, is central to the court's reasoning. The law treats minors not as witnesses alone, but as individuals owed heightened protection. The judge's denial of bond reflects this principle. It prioritizes safety over convenience, prevention over presumption. As the hearing ends, the defendant remains incarcerated, not because guilt has been established, but because the court has decided that uncertainty carries too high a cost. This is one of the most difficult functions of the justice system, restraining liberty not as punishment, but as precaution. This case illustrates a sobering reality. Trust, once broken in positions of authority, is not easily restored, even temporarily. The court does not ask whether the defendant is a bad person. It asks whether the risk is acceptable. And here, the answer is no. The courtroom moves on. The record reflects a denied motion. Dates are set. Procedure continues, but the underlying message is clear. When authority meets impulse and a child is caught in between, the law chooses control. If this case made you question where justice truly stands, don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel because the next case may change how you see the law forever.